Hello puppies and welcome to this new video. Do you like my shirt? Because I sure do. But now let's get into the video. As you probably noticed from the title, today we're talking about tips on how to build your first PC, or just tips about PC building. So let's go. The first tip, by the way I have some notes. The first tip is set a budget that isn't your actual budget. So what I mean by that is set a budget that isn't your whole budget, such as if you have $1,000 budget, make your budget $950 because it's quite easy to forget things like Windows. I mean, a copy of Windows right now you can find for cheap, about $25, but still, you might want that, or maybe like a Wi-Fi adapter that could be handy sometimes, or some sort of cables that you may forget during your part list. You really want to have those $50 of extra money. Number 2, make a bunch of research. Before buying the first part, I made about 2 months of constant research, so I was sure the processor and the motherboard I bought were the ones that I really wanted. Then, after that, you gotta be open to changes, such as at first for my research I wanted to buy an R9 390X, but then I ended up, as you all know, in my PC build with a GTX 1070 from MSI Gaming X, and I made that change because stuff like PhysX, so all the advanced physics from NVIDIA, were supported by all the games I wanted to play, such as Metro Last Light, which I recently finished. So an AMD card was not going to help me on that side of things, but AMD cards are still wonderful, and if you're on a budget, they're definitely the best you can buy. Such the new RX 480 is just amazing, and I mean the new 1060 is probably still amazing, but whatever. Then 4, think of what you need, such as if you live in a house where there's always a lot of dust and a lot of static, and everywhere you go you just get you still get shocked from some static energy, you might want a static strap or a static free surface for your PC build, so you might want to purchase that. And not just that, if you live in a house full of dust, you want to buy some dust filters for your PC, because dust can kill your PC in about a month. You will not even notice that. Then 5, think of the eventual peripherals you will need, such as think of the monitor in your budget if you do not have a monitor. Think of the keyboard and mouse in your budget, because it sucks after you're done with your build and you're like, well, now what do I do with it? Or example, if you buy a build that is capable of 1440p, it's a waste to use it on a 1080p monitor. So at that point, just go on your build for the cheap, and maybe instead of an GTX 1070, just buy an RX 480, and that will be just fine for 1080p gaming. On a $600 budget, which is basically nothing, you do not need the fanciest looking case. You can go on a scrapyard and pick up a random case for about $5, and you will get the same exact performance out of it than just the case I have right there, which is a $70 case, which is nothing still. It's really cheap. But if you're not liquid cooling, and if you do not care about side panel windows, just buy any case that can hold a regular ATX motherboard, and you'll be just fine. If you're liquid cooling, or if you have some fancy needs, then just buy a different case, and that's fine, but you do not need the fanciest looking stuff. And 7, this is really important, you gotta think and make your PC upgradable. You want your PC to be upgradable, such as if you have 4 slots for your RAM, just use 2 of them. Don't buy, like if you want 16 gigs of RAM, don't buy 4 sticks of 4. Buy like 2 sticks of 8, so in the future, if something changes and you need more RAM, you need 32 gigs, you can buy other 2 sticks of RAM. I mean, 16 gigs is pretty overkill. And by the way, you can check out the video I put in the video description. I made a video about 16 gigs of RAM versus 8 gigs of RAM, and the performance is just not worth the buck you're spending. Just not worth it. Or, for example, right now I have just one GTX 1070 in my PC, but in the future, just everything might change and the way people make games might change. They might need 2 GTX 1070s. But right now I do not have the money for 2 GTX 1070s. So I bought a motherboard that can hold 2 GTX 1070s. By the way, my mother box is right there. It's a Z178 Gaming 5 from MSI, and it's pretty nice. And well, you just have to think what you want to do with your PC, because if in the future you're gonna need more. And my camera died, but anyway, we were basically done. What I was saying is that right now I have a 1 GTX 1070, and maybe in future I'm gonna need 2 GTX 1070s. So I bought a motherboard which as I said before was the MSI Z170A Gaming M5 that holds 2 GTX 1070s or 2 graphics card in Crossfire or SLI, and so this way I can put 2 GTX 1070s in SLI in the future, because as I said before, things might change and the architecture might not work anymore. So yeah, that is a really helpful thing. And other stuff that might be useful is checking if your motherboard holds 2 graphics card and your case physically holds 2 graphics card, because my case does, but some cases do not. And motherboards like the M3, which is right before the M5, does not hold cards in SLI, so check that out. That might be important if you do want to put a second card in. And also your PSU is really important, because you cannot hold 2 cards with like a 500 watts PSU. Well, maybe you can, but you never know. But like with a 750 watts PSU, you might be able to. I mean, you should be able to. And just plan everything out. Don't forget anything before buying the first piece, because when you bought the first piece, maybe you bought the processor, everything should be planned. You should know every single piece you're getting before buying anything. Start with the processor, then from the processor go with the motherboard. From the motherboard, just start getting every single thing, of course, from the motherboard, the RAM, because if it's a DDR3 and you cannot buy DDR4 memory, that is really important. Everything has to be compatible. Use things like PC Part Picker. That is really important, because they usually check like if things are compatible. It does make some mistakes sometimes, but I mean, you should be fine. It's really rare. And just be sure you have everything you need. Like, plan everything out. Go on forums, ask stuff. It's really important, because you do not want to buy something and then you're like, oh shit, it doesn't fit in my case. Oh shit, this is not good. And then you have to sell it, because you're never going to sell it for the same price you bought it at. So you might lose 20 or 30 bucks. And well, that is going to impact your PC build, number one. Number two, as I said before, if that is why you leave a 50 bucks headroom in case you make some mistakes. That is, just trust me, it's better to leave 50 bucks of like mistake room than not to. Just it's really important. So I believe that's all. Thank you for watching. And if you have anything you really want to ask me, put it down in the comments and I could make a video about it, or if I don't think there's a need of a video, I'll just answer it. But I answer every single comment always. And if some of you are interested in some sort of video, like maybe like a comparison between PC and PS4 because I own both of them, just tell me down below in the comment section and it will. And I own Metro Last Light for both PC and PS4, so I could like put the two in comparison and see the graphics in both of them. So, alright, thank you for watching and see you next time.